Welcome to Wrong Time Watch. My name is Kevin, and today we're looking at two similar styled watches. One of them a little more so a homage of the Rolex Submariner. The other one maybe a little bit less so of a homage, but let's just compare these two watches to each other here. The Ginault Silent Service. The MSRP for it is $1,499, but it's currently on pre-order. I consider it more of a build to order, but the price is $1,039. You pay for the watch and then they hand build it in America. It's not made in America. I guess I would probably call it assembled in America. I don't think any of the parts are made in America, but anyway, you can see down there at 6 o'clock, hand built in America. And then you can see the kind of a jumble of words on the dial here. Ginault Kinetic Continuous Silent Service, then Submersible Maritime Precision Chronometer. All right, so we have a sapphire crystal, sapphire bezel insert, and they also make one with a dual time bezel. I think they call it a traveler's bezel. It's bi-directional and it has the 12 hours on the bezel here. So it's a dual time watch. This is a diver's bezel, 120 click. A little bit of back play, but other than that, bezel action feels pretty good. Not as good as a Rolex Submariner, but you know, this is 9 times less expensive. All right, let's take a quick look at the Tisell here. Actually, we'll stay zoomed in. Zoom in some more. So the Tisell, even though it doesn't say it on the dial, the country of manufacture is the Republic of Korea, otherwise known as South Korea. Not as much text on the dial here. You do have, right above the 6 o'clock, below the hand stack, you have submersible, so kind of a play on the Submariner. And then 200 meter water resistance versus 300 on the Ginault. The Tisell is $245. You can order this directly from the Tisell website. There's two different websites. One of them is in Europe. The one that I have used is the website from Korea. It's a little bit hard to find, so I'll leave a link to that website in the description. And the watch is about $100 less on that. So this is $245 from that the Korean website. Something on the dial there, maybe not. I don't know, but so this one's a little bit different. You have the box dome sapphire crystal. You have the printed indices instead of the applied indices. This is kind of more of a homage to a vintage Submariner style, but you do have a ceramic bezel insert, which I prefer over the sapphire. Bezel action is quite a bit different. It's a lot lighter of a bezel action. The other one, this is kind of reminds me more of a Seiko. It's not hard or stiff. It kind of feels like the rubbery gaskety feel of a Seiko bezel, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure where that is, but this one is very loose. This one feels more similar to my Submariner. Both have a combination of brushed and polished surfaces. This one actually has a chamfer around the edge of the case, so that is less Submariner-like. The actual Submariner is more like this, where you just have a sharp edge between the brushed and solid polished surface. Crown guards on this one. No crown guards on the Ginault. And then, of course, the bezel and crown on this is more similar to a Submariner, so this is more of a direct homage. See, they both have the similar 3-link bracelet. The end links on this one are not executed nearly as nicely. I don't know if these are casted or what's going on with these end links, but they're kind of funky looking here. You can see that machining mark right there. It almost seems like this portion is cast and then they come back and they finish machine it or something. I don't know, but kind of smoother. It's not as sharp of an edge as what's on the Submariner or the Ginault. But they do both feel pretty similar on wrist. Let's look at the bracelet here on this one, then we'll go to the Ginault. The case back on this is also more similar to a Rolex. The clasp is not as nice on this as on the Ginault. The bracelet's not as nice either, but they do have both of them have this on-the-fly bracelet adjustment system. Yeah, it just doesn't feel quite as nice as the Ginault. A little bit gritty here too, but it looks the part and it is comfortable on wrist. So let's get to the Ginault on screen here. Zoom back out a little bit. Oh, let's look at the end link here. So the end link on this one is nice and machined. Trying to see if that's one piece or three pieces. Looks to be one piece, one solid end link. So again, brushed and polished surfaces. The crown is signed on both of these models. This one has a T for Tisell, and this one has some sort of a flower. Not sure if it's a rose or what, but I do like the look of that. Nice taper to the bracelet. This link is a little stiff sometimes. Not sure what's going on with that. So you can see that there. And the case back on this is not exactly a copy of the Rolex. Do have some text on the back, and it doesn't have the knurling on it, or whatever you want to call it. Just some flat sides. I'm not sure what we'd use to remove that case back. A crescent wrench or something? And they must have a specific tool for that. So stainless steel, 1,000 feet, 300 meter, and then Ginault at the top there. All right, let's look at the clasp. This has kind of a two-stage clasp. Not sure what's going on with that. Not supposed to be that way. It stops there, then you keep pushing, it goes in. If you just give it a firm press, you can hear that double click there actually. I think if I push on these ball bearings, it kind of smooths it out for a little bit. Yep, see? It's kind of weird. Oh, double click again. Anyway, let me get these. Actually, let's talk about the further specs if I haven't lost you already. So this has a Swiss movement, SW200-1 Elabore grade movement, in-house regulated 6 weeks. This one has a Miyota 90S5. So $1,000 versus $250. Now, I don't know if this is 4 times the watch. It's probably pretty close to being 4 times the watch, really, if you consider that Swiss movement, the better bracelet, the better case, the better end links. But, you know, personal preference on what your budget is. I think both of these are fine for the price. So let me get them both on a wrist, and then we'll check out the Lume. Actually, before we do that, we'll talk about the dimensions. So these both have male end links. So tip to tip on this one is 50.7 millimeter. Lug width, lug to lug, is 48 millimeter. Bezel diameter 40.7. Case diameter is 40 and 12 millimeter thick. 20 millimeter lug width here, and it does taper down nicely to 15 millimeter. So 20 down to 15. So this watch is very comfortable on wrist. And then the clasp width is 17.7 millimeter, and it's 45 millimeters long. It is long, but this portion of the clasp is longer, so that's fine. It wears very comfortably on wrist. Very similar on wrist as my Submariner. If you were to blindfold me and put these on my wrist, I really I couldn't tell the difference between this or my Submariner. So very comfortable on wrist. I bought this watch used, and it's got quite a bit of wear to it. So probably going to keep it and just use it as a maybe a beater watch. I don't know. It's a $1,000 watch. It's kind of funny to call it a beater watch, but anyway. Let's move on to the Tisell. So 53.5 tip to tip on these male end links, so that's about 3 millimeters longer than the Ginault. 47.5 lug to lug. 13.3 thicker, so it is thicker. I think mostly due to that box domed sapphire crystal. 20 millimeter lug width, and it does taper down to 16, so not quite as much taper, but still good taper. 20 to 16 is great. 4 millimeter difference, 4 millimeter delta, perfectly fine. And then the clasp is 18.5 wide, so it's wider than the Ginault clasp, which makes sense because the bracelet is wider down here. It has less taper. And the length of this clasp is 45.3 millimeters, so very similar to the Ginault. Weight on the Tisell, 144 grams, and weight on the Ginault is 139 grams, so it's 5 grams lighter. All right, let's get the Tisell on wrist, and then we'll get the Ginault on wrist. And we'll check out the Lume. Quite a bit stiffer than the Ginault. So you open the clasp, that is. So, and these edges are a little more rounded, especially in there. So just interesting differences there. All right, so I have a 6.5 inch wrist with a 52 millimeter wristband. So the lug to lug or tip to tip on these male end links does overhang my wrist. May not look like it from this camera viewing angle. You do get a little more glare on this because of the dome. I really prefer flat sapphire crystals to any kind of a dome. But I do agree these crystals look a little more cool than just a regular flat sapphire crystal. Again, that clasp a little more stiff. It's manageable. Yeah, it has that kind of like a dual stage, double stage clasp for whatever reason. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. I really prefer the look of this one. It's less Submariner-like, but I like the way that those indices shine when they hit the light. The sword hands, I kind of like them. A little bit different. The things I don't really like is I don't like the large castellations here on the bezel. I prefer more of a coin edge bezel. And then same for that crown. It got some larger grooves in there, larger knurling, whatever you want to call it. And Ginault has kind of a shady history too, but anyway, there we go. Let's pause the video and check out the Lume. Oh, before we do that, if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it and it really does help me out. So the Ginault is obviously on the left, and the Ginault has BGW9 lume and the Tisell has C3 lume. I would say the Tisell is a little bit brighter. Obviously the Tisell is more of a greenish lume, and then Ginault is more of a bluish color lume. So that will conclude this video. As always, thank you for your time and thank you for watching.